Dr. Sage here, continuing our lecture series on the introduction to the human biology. Today we'll be discussing the functions and requirements for human life and homeostasis. By the end of this video, you should be able to explain the importance of organization to the function of the human organism, distinguish between metabolism, anabolism, and catabolism, provide at least 2 examples of human responsiveness and human movement, compare and contrast growth, differentiation, and reproduction, discuss the role of oxygen and nutrients in maintaining human survival, explain why extreme heat and extreme cold threaten human survival, explain how the pressure exerted by gases and fluids influences human survival, discuss the role of homeostasis in healthy functioning, contrast negative and positive feedback, giving one physiological example of each mechanism. The human body consists of trillions of cells organized in a way that maintains distinct internal compartments. These compartments keep body cells separated from external environmental threats and keep the cells moist and nourished. They also separate internal body fluids from the countless microorganisms that grow on body surfaces. Cells, for example, have a cell membrane, also referred to as a plasma membrane, that keeps the intracellular environment, the fluids and organelles, separate from the extracellular environment. Blood vessels keep blood inside a closed circulatory system, and nerves and muscles are wrapped in connective tissue sheaths that separate them from surrounding structures. In the chest and abdomen, a variety of internal membranes keep major organs such as the lungs, heart, and kidneys separated from others. Your basic function as an organism is to consume or ingest energy and molecules in the foods you eat, convert some of it into fuel for movement, sustain your body functions, and build and maintain your body structures. There are 2 types of reactions that accomplish this: anabolism and catabolism. Anabolism is a process whereby smaller, simpler molecules are combined into larger, more complex substances. An anabolic reaction consumes energy. So, an example of an anabolic reaction is if you take Lego pieces, which are small subunits, and you put them together to build a Lego castle. So you're taking smaller pieces and building it into a larger structure. Now, if you think about that, in order to take the small pieces and build it into a castle, that's going to require energy. Your body can assemble the complex chemicals it needs by combining small molecules derived from the foods you eat. The opposite of an anabolic reaction is a catabolic reaction. Catabolism is a process by which larger, more complex substances are broken down into smaller, simpler molecules. And just as an anabolic reaction consumes energy, a catabolic reaction releases energy. So again, with our analogy, if we have a Lego castle, a large complex structure, if we break it down into individual Lego pieces, that's an example of a catabolic reaction. The complex molecules found in foods are broken down so the body can use their parts to assemble the structures and substances needed for life. Also breaking down the food, since it's a catabolic reaction, is going to release energy, and that energy you're going to use to support the energy needs of your cell in your body. Taken together, these 2 processes are called metabolism. Metabolism is the sum of all the anabolic and catabolic reactions that take place in the body. Both anabolic and catabolic reactions occur simultaneously and continuously to keep you alive. Speaking of staying alive and the energy needed for that, every cell in your body makes use of a chemical compound called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP, to store and release energy. The cell stores energy in the synthesis or anabolic reactions of making ATP, then moves the ATP molecules to the location where energy is needed to fuel cellular activities. Then the ATP is broken down, a catabolic reaction, and a controlled amount of energy is released, which is used by the cell to perform a particular job. Responsiveness is the ability of an organism to adjust to changes in its internal and external environments. An example of responsiveness to external stimuli could include moving towards sources of food and water and away from perceived dangers. Changes in an organism's internal environment, such as increased body temperature, can cause the responses of sweating and the dilation of blood vessels to the skin to decrease body temperature. Human movement includes not only actions of the joints of the body, but also the motion of individual organs and even individual cells. Right now, red and white blood cells are moving throughout your body, muscle cells are contracting and relaxing to maintain your posture and to focus your vision, and glands are secreting chemicals to regulate body functions. Your body is coordinating the action of entire muscle groups to enable you to move air into and out of your lungs, to push blood throughout your body, and to propel the food you have eaten through your digestive tract. Consciously, of course, you contract your skeletal muscles to move the bones of your skeleton to get from one place to another. Development is all the changes the body goes through in life. Development includes the processes of differentiation, in which unspecialized cells become specialized in structure and function to perform certain tasks in the body. Development also includes processes of growth and repair, both of which involve cell differentiation. Growth is the increase in body size. Humans, like all multicellular organisms, grow by increasing the number of existing cells, increasing the amount of non-cellular materials around cells, such as the mineral deposits in bone, and within very narrow limits, increasing the size of existing cells. Reproduction is the formation of a new organism from parent organisms. In humans, reproduction is carried out by the biological male and biological female reproductive systems. Atmospheric air is only about 20% oxygen, but that oxygen is a key component of the chemical reactions that keep the body alive, including the reactions that produce ATP. Brain cells are especially sensitive to lack of oxygen because of their requirement for a high and steady production of ATP. Brain damage is likely within 5 minutes without oxygen, and death is likely within 10 minutes. A nutrient is a substance in foods and beverages that is essential to human survival. The three basic classes of nutrients are water, the energy-yielding and body-building nutrients, and the micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals. The most crucial nutrient is water. We may be able to survive for only a few days without water. The body's functional chemicals are dissolved and transported in water, and the chemical reactions of life take place in water. Moreover, water makes up about 70% of an adult's body mass. Water also helps to regulate our internal temperature and cushions, protects, and lubricates joints and many other body structures. The energy-yielding nutrients are primarily carbohydrates and lipids, while proteins mainly supply the amino acids that are the building blocks of the body itself. You ingest these in plant and animal foods, and the digestive system breaks them down into molecules small enough to be absorbed. The breakdown products of carbohydrates and lipids can then be used in the metabolic processes that convert them to ATP. You can survive without consuming the energy-yielding nutrients for at least several weeks. Water and the energy-yielding nutrients are often referred to as macronutrients because the body needs them in large amounts. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. These elements and compounds participate in many essential chemical reactions and processes, such as nerve impulses, and some, such as calcium, also contribute to the body's structure. The chemical reactions upon which the body depends can only take place within a narrow range of body temperature, from just below to just above 37 degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. When body temperature rises well above or drops well below normal, certain proteins, enzymes, that facilitate chemical reactions lose their normal structure and their ability to function, and the chemical reactions of metabolism cannot proceed. One of the body's responses to heat is, of course, sweating. As sweat evaporates from the skin, it removes some thermal energy from the body, cooling it. Adequate water from the extracellular fluid in the body is necessary to produce sweat, so adequate fluid intake is essential to balance that loss during the sweat response. As the core body temperature begins to drop significantly, red blood cells will lose their ability to give up oxygen, denying the brain of this critical component of ATP production. This lack of oxygen can cause confusion, lethargy, and eventually loss of consciousness and death. One response to cold is shivering, which is random muscle movement that generates heat. Another response is increased breakdown of stored energy to generate heat. The body responds to cold by reducing blood circulation to the extremities, the hands and feet, to prevent blood from cooling there, and so the body's core can stay warm. Pressure is a force exerted by a substance that is in contact with another substance. Atmospheric pressure is pressure exerted by the mixture of gases, primarily nitrogen and oxygen, in the Earth's atmosphere. Although you may not perceive it, atmospheric pressure is constantly pressing down on your body. This pressure keeps gases within your body, such as the gaseous nitrogen in your body fluids, dissolved. Atmospheric pressure does more than just keep blood gases dissolved. Your ability to breathe, that is to take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, also depends on precise atmospheric pressure. Altitude sickness occurs in part because the atmosphere at high altitudes exerts less pressure, reducing the exchange of these gases, and causes shortness of breath, confusion, headache, lethargy, and nausea. The dynamic pressure of body fluids is also important to human survival. For example, blood pressure, which is the pressure exerted by blood as it flows within blood vessels, must be great enough to enable blood to reach all body tissues, and yet low enough to ensure that the delicate blood vessels can withstand the friction and force of the pulsating flow of pressurized blood. Homeostasis is the state of steady internal conditions maintained by living things. Maintaining homeostasis requires that the body continuously monitor its internal conditions. From body temperature to blood pressure to levels of certain nutrients, each physiological condition has a particular set point. So a set point is a physiological value around which the normal range fluctuates. A normal range is a restricted set of values that is optimally healthful and stable. For example, the set point for normal human body temperature is approximately 37 degrees Celsius. Physiological parameters such as body temperature and blood pressure tend to fluctuate within a normal range of a few degrees above and below that point. Control centers in the brain and other parts of the body monitor and react to deviations from homeostasis using negative feedback. Negative feedback is a mechanism that reverses a deviation from the set point. Therefore, negative feedback maintains body parameters within their normal range. A negative feedback system has three basic components: a sensor, control center, and effector. A sensor or receptor is a component of a feedback system that monitors a physiological value. This value is reported to the control center. The control center is a component in a feedback system that compares a value to the normal range. If the value deviates too much from the set point, then the control center activates an effector. The effector is a component in a feedback system that causes a change to reverse the situation and return the value to the normal range. An analogy to help you understand the negative feedback system. Okay, you likely have one of these in your home, because if you have a central air conditioner, that works upon a negative feedback system. So the job of your central air conditioner is to maintain cool air inside your home, especially living here in the hot Florida weather. Okay, what you want your air conditioner to do is lower the temperature, let's say to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. What you don't want is you don't want your air conditioner to run all day long, to keep running even after you've already achieved 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Why? Because your house would get too cold. Most people don't want their house set at 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, it would be too expensive to keep running the air conditioner all day long in the hot Florida weather. So what happens is the air conditioner is producing something. It's producing cold air. Once it starts to get too much cold air, the thing that's being made, the cold air, feeds back and it turns off the system that's making it. So in this case, your air is starting to drop to a lower temperature than you want. Let's say it's getting down below 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So that would be the stimulus, the air temperature dropping below 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Now, in your house, you have a sensor that detects the temperature. Okay, it notices it's below 75 degrees Fahrenheit. Also part of your AC system is the control center that notices, well, that is not the temperature range that you set your air conditioner to. So in that case, the effector then turns off your air conditioner to stop producing cold air. Now, the great part of this negative feedback system is the thing that's being made is the thing that turns off the system. So once you start to get too much of it, it turns it off. Too much cold air, the system turns off. But you want cold air because it gets hot in Florida, okay? So let's say the air conditioner turns off. What happens? Midday Florida sun, your house starts to heat up again. So in that case, there's no longer too much cold air or the stimulus, okay? So therefore, it can no longer turn off the sensor, so the sensor will turn back on, and the system will start making cold air again, okay? So it's a very elegant system to allow you to make what you want, but not too much of it, because then it turns itself off. Once you start to use it up, then it can turn itself back on. More related, human physiology. Okay, we want to set body temperature. Let's say that our body temperature exceeds 37 degrees Celsius. The nerve cells in the skin and brain are a sensor to detect that. The temperature regulatory center of the brain is what notices that's not in the region we want it to be in. So then the sweat glands throughout your body start to produce sweat, which then increases heat loss. So we start to drop our body temperature. So the system works very similar to how your central air conditioner works inside your house. Besides negative feedback systems, there are also positive feedback systems. Positive feedback intensifies a change in the body's physiological condition rather than reversing it. So for example, instead of the air conditioner noticing that it's getting too cold and stopping it from being too cold. It'd be like if it notices it's getting cold and it keeps getting it more and more and more cold. A deviation from the normal range results in more change, and the system moves farther away from the normal range. Positive feedback in the body is normal only when there is a definite endpoint. Childbirth and the body's response to blood loss are two examples of positive feedback loops that are normal but are activated only when needed. For example, the first contractions of labor would be the stimulus which pushed the baby towards the cervix. The cervix contains stretch-sensitive nerve cells that monitor the degree of stretching, which would be the sensors. These nerve cells send messages to the brain, which in turn causes a pituitary gland at the base of the brain to release the hormone oxytocin into the bloodstream. Oxytocin causes stronger contractions of the smooth muscles in the uterus, which is the effectors, pushing the baby further down the birth canal. This causes even greater stretching of the cervix. The cycle of stretching, oxytocin release, and increasingly more forceful contractions stops only when the baby is born. This is an example of a positive feedback mechanism. In this lecture, we have discussed the functions and requirements for human life and homeostasis. In the next lecture, we'll conclude our series on the video lectures in the Introduction to the Human Body. Until next time, this has been Dr. Sage.